And Trisha, your script kicks us off, right?
This is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission Advisory Review Panel convened to review applications submitted for the Arts Project Support Regional Initiative Grants for fiscal year 2022. I'm Tricia Gilson from Columbus, and today is April 23rd, 2021, and we're meeting by conference call and streaming live from a webinar. And we welcome applicants and other guests who may be listening in today, and would like to remind everyone that there is to be no direct contact or conversation about the evaluation and disposition of applications before, during, or after the panel meeting between panelists and applicants. At this time, we'd like the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, stating their name, occupation, and where they are from in the state. I'll call out your name. Anne Amrine, do you want to start us off? And you're on mute.
Honestly, I swore I wouldn't do that. Hi, everyone. I'm Anne Amrine, and I'm a retired teacher from Batesville Community School Corporation in Batesville. I spent most of my career as a classroom teacher or a school librarian, and all 36 of those years were spent involved in the arts and education programs in our schools in town. Thanks.
Thank you, Anne. Next is Michael Beck.
Hi, I'm Michael Beck. I'm the Executive Director for Franklin County Convention, Recreation, and Visitors Commission, and I live in Brookville, Indiana.
Thank you, Michael. And next is Ian Karstens.
Hi, yeah, I'm Ian. I'm a filmmaker, curator, and arts writer living in Bloomington, Indiana. And I've worked for various nonprofits, art house theaters, and libraries. So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Ian. Next, Philip Dybert. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Philip Dywert. I'm the Executive Director of the Decatur County Visitors Commission, and I live in Greensburg, Indiana.
Thank you, Philip. And Jeremy Nye.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Nye. I live in Columbus, Indiana, and I'm both an architect and an interior designer.
Thank you, Jeremy. And Catherine Tall.
Hi, I'm Catherine Tall. I was Ripley County Tourism Director for about 16 years before I retired to travel with my husband, which isn't going to happen now. But I love the arts and been part of them for a long time.
Thank you, Catherine. Chris Roberts, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Chris Roberts. I'm with the Columbus Area Arts Council, and we are the regional arts partner for Region 9.
Thanks, Chris. And next we have Deanna Polsma.
Hello, I'm Deanna Polsma, the Grants Research and IT Manager at the Indiana Arts Commission.
And thank you, Deanna. And Cody Estep.
Hello, I'm Cody Estep, a program intern with the IAC, and I'm helping out with tech today.
Thank you all. Now we'll begin the panel review, and this is how the process will work. I'll announce the application we will review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the application does not need to be recapped since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I'll ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We're not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation from the different perspectives bring to the table. After the second reader has finished, I'll open the discussion to the full panel to offer their perspectives. And again, remember, in the interest of time, we're only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, We will place the panelist into the Zoom waiting room during the application's evaluation. Finally, once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we'll ask the panel to update their scores in the online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion. Are there any questions? Okay, then let's go ahead and begin. We're going to review the application from the Actors Community Theater of Seymour Incorporated, and our first reader is Anne Amrine.
Thank you, Tricia. I'm doing the Actors Community Theater of Seymour, which is also known as ACTS. I founded a good, solid program. This is their 8th year. The interest in and dedication by its members to the program is evident. Even from my computer screen in Batesville, I could feel good vibes and fun and a joy they take from what they do. I'm going to work my way down the application in order of criteria. The application does explain what the group does. However, it does not provide information on the steps taken to ensure the quality artistic experience and how they choose productions. It mentions that they use feedback, but do they have criteria they follow? For example, with 4 productions per year, do they try to offer a musical, a mystery, a comedy, a classic, a rotation, so that over the course of a couple years, the participants and the audience have experience and exposure to a variety of genre, because they talk about their education as part of their entertaining and educating. Technically, the ACTS proposal, it does not meet the requirement of an artist benefit, which I understand why that's the criteria this year. I don't think they should be penalized. I think, in fact, the volunteer aspect supports the value that its members have for this program. Not many details are provided on how they involve the community. For example, I would have helped to have a little more how, like how are you partnering with local businesses and nonprofits? How are the members of the community encouraged to submit proposals? Is it an easy, accessible process? Social media is up to date and active, and the visuals provided are good and give insight to the organization. The posters and the photos convey positivity and a feeling of welcome. That lovesick poster made me smile every time I saw it. The application reflects a dedicated group of people. I've found the approach of having a different director for each production seems to be a really good idea. I would guess that it would promote diversity in the participants and broaden the audience base by pulling in a wider circle of people, because each director has a different role or influence or friends in the community. And I would think it would also prevent burnout among the volunteers. The timeline and the budget provide enough detail to demonstrate capacity and reasonableness. All in all, a good proposal with a lot of merit. Thanks.
Thank you, Anne. I'll invite the second reader, Ian Karstens, to add new or opposing comments.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of Anne's comments and would want to echo the question of how, for a variety of the ways that they describe how they're going to respond to things such as the technology and costs that may be involved for new streaming requirements for accessibility. So making sure that you have a straightforward, clear answer to that, just as an example, would really bolster this proposal. And again, along the how line, just how they will hold themselves accountable to their mission of serving all people, regardless of age, race, creed, etc. So just a clear, kind of some clear actionables on a variety of these things would be really great ways to strengthen it. But all in all, the project was presented concisely and well tailored to the application.
Thank you, Ian. Now we'll open the discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I like that they did the talent show in the past with a good way to include individuals with disabilities. It would be nice to see that incorporated again.
Mhm. I also appreciated the effort to include young people and to talk about educating young, young actors and giving even young people an opportunity to direct performances. I thought that was pretty cool.
And I forgot to mention, but I'm unsure and maybe running on an assumption that the cast and crew, those involved, are volunteers. And so a clear statement about how artists are directing or directly and indirectly benefiting would really help me as someone not familiar with that aspect of this organization from this proposal.
So it seems that the discussion is finished. So I'll ask the panelists to please finalize your scores and update your online comments. And when you're done, if you could just give me a thumbs up so we know to move on to the next application. I looked away, but I think I saw everyone give a thumbs up. Is that right? Okay, great. So our next application is the Crothersville Festival Board, and our first reader is Catherine Tull.
Okay, I am new to this, so I will do my best. This festival sounds really neat, interesting, fun for a small community. I would like to see a little bit more organization. A list of past artists would be good in the application, specifics on what artists are included. And it's nice that they're looking to add more artists. Go on down. Several of the things were not addressed in the application. A strategy to reach different diverse people. So that would be nice to see how they could bring in more people being involved, participation. It looks like they have good people in place to do some things. The timeline I wasn't quite clear about. Oh, that was one thing. It looked like the time on the timeline, it was supposed to be before the grant dates. So I was kind of wondering about that. And I didn't see a detailed budget. I know that's kind of hard with small communities sometimes when you're not sure exactly what you have coming in. And I also was thinking about, it says that it's a fundraiser, but I didn't see where it said what the funds were for and how they were gathering funds. So that's my main things that I came out with.
Thank you, Catherine. I'll invite the second reader, Michael Beck, to add new or opposing comments.
Yeah, I agree with Catherine on a lot of things. I was wondering if it was like a juried artist, or is it just, people bringing things in? Would have been nice to have a little bit more detail on what all they had. I see they bring in music, which had some diversity. I did like how they were trying, it sounded like they were trying to get more kids involved. It'd been nice to see, are they trying to do a peer group, or is it just people, you know, rattling off different information? There's just a lot of things that seem missing. You know, I'm with Catherine on the budget. It just has totals. It doesn't say what exactly those totals are for or where they're going to. It does have it broken down a little bit, I guess, but it would have just been nice to have a little bit. The other aspect that I was thinking of is it would have been nice to know, how does the arts impact their festival? Is it something that they've just thrown in there? Or is it something that really impacts the festival? Would have helped me with this application. And then of course the deadlines, I don't know if maybe they had applied maybe a year before and just hadn't changed the dates. And then their brochure, it would have been nice. It seems like things are getting lost a little bit, and there's no mention at all about the arts or trying to come up with a marketing strategy or an idea strategy was missing also. And I think that's all I had.
Thanks, Michael. Now we'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
One comment or question I guess maybe I had was from looking at the project description and the budget. I don't remember their exact wording, but they stated something like they were a little bit concerned about their budget, as it was enough to produce a mediocre festival that the community would attend, which is one thing, but I guess what kind of confused me about that was the requested amount was less than the max allowable to be requested. So I guess I just kind of was questioning that discrepancy there.
And I had a brief comment for whoever filed this application, just to be aware of their tone of voice, and particularly in the project management section where we were now moving to first person, they used quotes around lead, said I guess, used all caps. I just want to reiterate for that person to feel and speak confidently from that leadership that they clearly have, even if it's small, and really kind of presenting that confidence throughout how the entire proposal is written really helps us see the project and visualize it successfully. So I just want to really encourage this person or this group to continue to lean into the confidence and the experience that they do have and activate on that instead of self-deprecating or air quotes kind of thing.
I would like to interject. I went back to look over the application about the grant request, and the grant request itself is within range. It's just that the project budget is larger than that. So the grant request for this specific grant is within the allowable range for the grant.
So seeing that the discussion is finished, I'll ask all panelists to please finalize your scores and update your online comments, and to indicate with a thumbs up when you have done that. Thanks, everyone. The next application is from the Dearborn County Citizens Against Drug Abuse. And our first reader is Philip Dywert.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So this is the second, make sure that I was unmuted. This is the second Totem of Hope project that this community has done. I really appreciate the effort to incorporate people who are in recovery or have been incarcerated or have had legal issues, to give them support and make an effort to bring them into the community. I mean, that's, I think, a big part of recovery is, I have worked with that population. So, well, I don't want to interject personal experience. Never mind. I'll back up. Let's see. So the totems are going to be installed at the public library. One of the issues that I had with this project is that this is the second iteration of a totem, but the first one has not been completed yet. I kind of felt like it would have been nice to have seen, the first one completed, been able to get some feedback from the community. One of my issues was, and this was an issue with a lot of the applications, to be fair, but how are you going to measure the impact? And one of the lines from the application, I think, said that the judges hoped or expected to see kind of a reduction in recidivism, but I feel like if you had kind of given it some time after that first totem was completed, maybe you could have actually had some hard data to share as far as measuring the impact. Let me just scroll through my comments. Another one of the things that I questioned was the financial benefit to Indiana artists, which I know is an issue with a lot of the applications also. So I don't want to ding them too hard for that, but I feel like I'm being very negative, but this is a project I really think the world of. But there was another line in the application: the progress this group has made is much more than was expected, which I felt like that was kind of a surprising thing to say, because I don't know, I guess, what the impact, what was expected, and then kind of what was actually accomplished. And again, I would have liked to have had kind of some more data or more feedback from what was done. A lot of the applicants, the idea A and B were hard to score, and I'm not sure that there was enough of an effort made to reach out to minority or a more diverse group in the community. Yeah, I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Philip. So I will invite the second reader, Jeremy Nye, to add new or opposing comments.
Thanks. Overall, I think I would echo a lot of what Philip said as well. I was excited to see a application that was, maybe serving, a relatively smaller percentage of the population. It's great that they really focused in on this overlooked population that gets neglected too often. And the program is very clearly tailored to serving this population. One of the things that particularly stuck out to me was one of their goals was identified as, and I quote, designed to help the participants rise above the stigma and become positive leaders in the community. That really stuck out to me because of the final goal of having this public art that they worked on being installed and accessible to the entire surrounding community. I think that really will help create a sense of pride in those who are participating in this. Gives them an opportunity to, take their family by, who may have very well helped in some of this artwork at some phase as well, based off the application, and say, look, I made that, I helped create that. So I feel like the impact of this project is probably more reaching than what's outlined in the application itself, because of the proximity to the library as well, and the larger or broader population that may be accessing the area for those services. I would agree though with one thing that Philip said, where it'd be great to see more documentation of the first totem being completed and hearing how that may have informed the second one. That's really about it. Those are all the other comments that I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. So now we'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I would like to charge, or not charge, that's the wrong word. I'd like to ask and potentially caution to a point of reflection this applicant's use of the word totem, which is not a neutral term and has a connection to Indigenous and Native American peoples. And so if you are going to use this term, this is a great educational opportunity to talk about how that term exists in the lives and cultures of these Indigenous and Native American people, which I think would be a great way to bolster some of the other kind of positive mission goals that you've set for yourself with this project. So I just want to highlight that the word totem is not a neutral term, and there's a lot of potential with unpacking that and working that into this project positively.
So
I didn't see anything, just real quick, I didn't see anything that would say that it explains what the totems are when they're in the courtyard. So I think that would be an interesting thing to add so that people who actually see them understand what they are.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think I probably had to look at one of the attached photos before I kind of really understood, you know, what the project was. So yeah, I think that's a valid point too. Yeah.
So it seems that the discussion is finished. So I will ask all panelists to please finalize your scores and update your online comments and give me a thumbs up to let me know when you have done that. Okay, thank you all. So we will move on to the next application. It is from Developmental Services Incorporated, and our first reader is Michael Beck.
Hi. Just some different things that I saw with DSI is I liked how they saw a need in the community and they saw that it was being taken care of. And so they are kind of leading the way to get this program off the or to get it going. I thought that they had a good idea plan just because they gave examples of modified equipment, sign interpreters, oral interpreters. So they are trying to outreach. I really liked how they were going into after school programs and public schools and local nursing homes, which are all underserved communities that we all have. They seem to be using a wide variety of marketing efforts, including social media, radio, newspaper. I think it was one of the more detailed marketing plans that I saw. Just the different medias that they're using. They weren't just sticking to one or two. I liked how they took the previous surveys and feedback and looked at it to see what they needed to move forward for this year. They have different, in their timeline, they're showing different genres, media, from, pottery to art to theater. So there's different a little bit of something for everybody. My only concern is just make sure you're reaching out to, I know they're reaching out to the local community or the nursing homes, the schools, but make sure your entire community knows about it. Just because there may be some people that aren't in the schools or the nursing homes or something like that, that would maybe take advantage of this. So I would suggest, reaching out definitely to the chambers and other organizations, the 501s, to see if they could maybe help bring people in. And then the one thing I noticed is they're doing all this, but there's really not a display afterwards. I think that would create an enthusiasm within the community to be able to have some kind of a display of the projects, no matter what the age level or ability level would be. And then the only other thing I saw is on their cash income and cash expenses. It was supposed to be the exact same. I think what they did is they just added their in-kind to one of the quantities, and that's why it didn't match. So just the next time, make sure you're looking at that. But other than that, that's all I have.
Michael, I'll invite the second reader, Anne, to add new or opposing comments.
Thank you. I agreed with everything that Michael said. She kind of took my notes, although I will say there was one, I was a little confused as I was reading just where this was happening. That the developmental services is in 9 counties. Is it happening in all those counties? Is it in, I noticed they listed Seymour and Greensburg. I was a little confused about exactly how many places this was happening. And I couldn't really tell by the budget either. So that was one question I had. Otherwise, I thought it was a very valuable and needed program. Thanks.
Thank you, Anne. Now we will open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on.
I love that they are including, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just real quick, I'm glad that they're including public in these art classes because that will help build bridges between the two different communities. Really neat.
Yeah, one of my questions was just that it sounds like it's just the one coordinator, Jennifer Grzenka, who sounds wonderful, based on the description. But it just seemed like a massive undertaking for one person by themselves. And I think Michael kind of alluded to this too. Like if you could build more, community collaborations to generate some more support, and then the $500 budget for marketing, I thought seemed low considering you're working with 9 different communities. I would not think that would go very far spread out among so many different counties.
So seeing that the discussion is finished, I'll ask all panelists to please finalize your scores and update your online comments and give me a thumbs up when you are ready for the next application. Great. So the next application is Ethnic Expo of City of Columbus, and our first reader is Ian Karstens.
Hey, thank you. Thought this proposal was very concise and thorough, particularly for a rather multifaceted proposal. So that was great to see. Further listing details on past or projected artists, specific artists or specific groups, I think would really bolster the conciseness that's already here. And the marketing material was really well done, and the collage methodology was a really smart way to resolve getting all of those things into one designed document. So I really thought that was smart. They had this proposal has a very clear with, not for statement that was just really strong and referenced, again, the details earlier, but that was also throughout the majority of this proposal. And I think one question I had is just simply rural access to this project and clearly delineating how those folks and various groups of people who live in the rural parts of this community are being included, and also provided access to the various parts of this proposal. And with regards to project management, the use of the asterisk in the timeline, it's a small note, was really effective and really helped me go through those. So I wanted to commend this proposal on using that simple symbol that really helped make a lot of things more clear and easy to read.
Thank you, Ian. I'll invite our second reader, Philip, to add new or opposing comments.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I think this application did a really nice job of demonstrating how they include the various diverse communities within Columbus. I think that was awesome. I also appreciated this year with COVID, their effort to, instead of doing one large event, they're going to do 4 smaller events that are a little bit more physically spaced out. And then I kind of want to just kind of public notice, I guess, or public appreciation for the economic contributions from First Financial to donate $20,000 to a project like this. Shows really awesome kind of community buy-in. And then Vectron also contributes $5,000 to this project every year. The fact that the City of Columbus and the Visitor Center collaborate to pay a project manager to take on this whole, and it shows. That's why you can have an application that is so well done like this, probably, I suspect. So yeah, I think that's all I have to add.
Thanks, Philip. Now we'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I agree with what has been said, that it was an excellent proposal. One of the things I found very interesting is they decided to do just the 4 instead of multiple ethnic groups that they normally do. And when you got into Facebook, and they have a very active page and several thousand followers, there were some complaints when they announced that it was going to the 4. I took that as a real compliment, actually, to the whole project, that they were complaining that there were only 4. So I thought that there's some real investment in this program and the longevity of it. And I know they made the decisions in the best interest of everyone. But I thought that was just very interesting. And I took it as a positive as opposed to a negative. I hope the committee does too. So thanks.
And to piggyback onto your comment, Anne, I would really like to see a clear delineation of who is on this steering committee and how that committee is formed, and how those decisions to choose those 4 were made and by whom. And I think that would provide even more detail for us to know who's envisioning this project and then making it happen as well.
And that said, one of the things that I had written down, I thought was just kind of cool to see. The organizer, I think this is a quote, although I didn't put quotes around it, so I'm not 100% sure, but it says that organizers remain committed to an ongoing process of learning and change. I really appreciated that. I think this is an example of a group that's really making every effort and doing a really good job, I think.
So it looks like the discussion is finished, and I will ask all panelists to finalize your scores. update your online comments and give me a thumbs up. Thanks, everyone. The next application is Exhibit Columbus, a Landmark Columbus Foundation, and our first reader is Jeremy.
Great. So for the Exhibit Columbus application, it was very well organized and documented. One question that I did have was underneath of the artist benefit. It actually just lists one artist being directly benefited, but I think this number is actually lower than the true benefit from the project directly. I think it should actually be 3 based off of the written description, because they do have 2 other artists who are listed as benefiting inside of the budget section as well. So that should probably be modified from 1 to 3. They mentioned the artist painted around 150 paintings focused on Columbus. They do mention that many of them will be dispersed throughout the community, but it'd be really helpful to see what does many mean. Is it 150 or is it 4? Like, understanding that impact on the community would be really helpful. Not only the quantity, but also I don't remember seeing any specific locations identified. There were broad categories that were identified, but it'd be really helpful to see the criteria that was used for selecting those locations and see if they're implementing any idea strategies as well to help further serve, neglected populations or overlooked populations. They do mention that all the venues are barrier free, which is great, and they're all free. So those are both, definitely really good things. Inside their marketing section, they make note of a few different digital advertising methods that they're pursuing with social media or web advertising. But I think it's important to remember, and Columbus is obviously a city, but it's also kind of surrounded by very rural areas as well. And I think it's important to remember not everybody has great access to internet and digital advertising. So also, maintaining a print presence, I think would be beneficial to the project. But one great thing is there's definitely a chance for someone to happen upon this art unexpectedly as well. If they're running an errand in town and they go into a store, it sounds like there's a strong potential that one of these featured artworks may be in there, which is good. It's helping expose a larger population to the art. One thing they mentioned was that the artwork is very tangible, and with the examples that were submitted, that really helps you to understand what they mean. They're very approachable, and with them all being focused on Columbus, it creates a strong sense of pride, I think, within the community. So the application does seem very focused on serving artists, past and present, within the community by encouraging others to participate in the future. One last thing I want to mention too is in the project management section, they're talking about how they'd like to have the artists give a presentation about the artwork, and there's the whole COVID caveat, which is understandable. Obviously when you experience art, you make your own interpretations, and there's value to that. But I would really encourage them to remain agile through COVID and make it a priority to have the artist give a presentation on her work so that she can speak about what inspired her to create such a prolific series focused on the city of Columbus. But really all the budget seemed very reasonable. It was balanced. I think that's the extent of my comments on the application.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'll invite the second reader, Catherine, to add new or opposing comments.
I think Jeremy did a great job. The only thing I would add is it's great to see a project combine so many community resources. I thought that was a really strong aspect of the application. That's it.
Now we'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
Jeremy, you mentioned that it should be 3 artists that should be listed as benefiting. You may be right, and maybe not. When you look at the expenses, they list those twice. There's like 500 for photograph, like it's a photographer and the graphic artist. I think those 2 pieces, but they're doubled. So part of it is an expense and part of it is an in-kind, but they don't delineate what part of it. So it could be that the artists are donating their time and then the money is going to the actual materials, but it doesn't say that. But that would be helpful because it could be one way or the other. So I just wanted to say that was just clarify that maybe, or say it wasn't clarified.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I would piggyback off of Catherine's point about how this project is really mobilizing those various community resources or just various resources, and almost caution how the project and proposal is presenting itself with the thinking about scale and remembering the with, not for. And so making sure that the community has active participation and buy-in throughout the entire process, which can be difficult with a very large, multifaceted organization that has an arm that's, I think I'm understanding, that's supporting this proposal. So just making sure that it's not only the organization that's making this project, but there's community involved at every step of the way, I think would really bolster this proposal that much further by just even clearly stating how that might happen for this project.
Seeing that the discussion is finished, I'll ask all panelists to finalize your scores and update your online comments. And when you're ready for the next application, if you could give a thumbs up. Philip, you're fast. Oh my gosh, people are fast. Okay. So the next application is the Happy Tree. Let me just check. If I missed one, yes, sorry. The next application is the Greater Seymour Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Incorporated. And our first reader is Philip.
Yeah, okay. So I love that this is a public mural. It's in a very prominent location in the community of Seymour. It gets a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic. I really appreciated they're going to do a video documentary of the creation of the mural and then share that with community art classes with the hope that it will spark curiosity, spark an interest in art. Other great collaborations demonstrated, and they've already accomplished a couple very prominent public murals in Seymour, so I'm confident that this will also be accomplished. See, I thought having worked with murals, I think that their project budget was eminently reasonable. The in-kind contribution from Seymour Decorating Center was appreciated. Paint and supplies will be supplied as an in-kind contribution. I like that they are going to do 3 public forums to discuss the content of the mural, and not just have those, but have them located at the location where the mural is going to go. I thought that was a very a good way to handle that. You're not just sitting in a room or disconnected from the space. You're actually in the space. One of the things I think was just kind of unclear. At one point it says that the mural will reflect, and this is a quote, the deep history of agriculture in our area, end quote. But then later it says that the subject matter will rely heavily on community feedback and the creative experience of the artist, and that themes have come up that include agriculture and growth. But I guess I kind of question, are you going to trust the artist, or are you going to give the artist, I don't know, maybe too much of a concrete what you hope to see. And then another, I don't know, concern is probably not the right word, but they said it would be quote, a bonus to find an Indiana artist, but that it could be a regional or even beyond, which, for this grant, you might have preferred to see them target maybe a little bit more strongly an Indiana artist, but overall a good project. The more public art, the better. One of the notes that I made was, maybe not a ton of economic, even if there's not economic benefit to an Indiana artist, if they choose an artist from outside of Indiana, hopefully, the more murals there are, the more work that will result for Indiana muralists, hopefully. So I kind of thought about that way a little bit, but yeah, I think that's all that I have for that project.
Thank you, Philip. I'll invite the second reader, Anne, to add new or opposing comments.
Sure, I think just a couple things to add. I do feel that the proposal was very well thought out. I like that they used prior experiences with murals in the community to set goals, to guide goals for this one. I like that they were striving to create a model for a community approach. And they included the chamber who wrote the grant, as well as the Main Street and the city. And I think those three entities, from my experience, have their fingers on the buzz of the town. They know what's going on in town, and those are a good community collaboration. And I like that they were building on efforts that they had just recently updated the community plaza, and we're planning to take advantage of that and just continue the work. Let's see. I did feel like so I thought that having so many diverse community groups will ensure a true community project, because that's a lofty goal to pull off, I think. I thought the budget was fine. There were $700 off. Did you mention that, Philip? Sure. There were the community forum events, I think, were just not calculated in the total expenses. The numbers didn't match quite. And I thought the timeline seemed a little tight, maybe, but that might be due to just having to have it done by the time winter was over. The fall thing was pretty fast, or before winter came, you can't be painting in the snow. So that might be why that budget or the timeline was tight. I think that's it.
Thanks, Anne. Now I'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
One of the things that I wondered about is the use of the side of that building that had so many windows in it. I think that's going to make quite a challenge, but that's their choice.
I think if space allows, this proposal could have included more of almost a definition or an explanation for why abstract art is a positive and what they mean by that, and also what they mean by open to urban interpretation, instead of building off of assumptions that rural communities don't know what abstract art is and all of that kind of stuff. Don't have to write a dissertation on it, but at least a small sentence clearly why you're trying to direct this mural towards a certain sensibility, and further highlighting that, I think, would really strengthen how it will interrelate with the community. And then my second point is how they're going to measure the impact of this. It will physically be somewhere, but how are they going to creatively design or gather data and metrics in relation to how it is connecting with the community? I think could have been further detailed in this proposal as well, and thus strengthened it.
So it looks like the discussion is finished. I'll ask the panelists to finalize your scores, update your online comments, and give me a thumbs up. The next application is Happy Tree Art Studio, and the first reader is Catherine Tall.
I have to admit, I was shocked when I read that the school systems were not doing art projects or having art classes. I think that it's great that an organization is stepping in to serve that need. I think that art is very important in our communities, especially for our young people. I can see maybe some artists coming from outside of the area to do some classes, but that's something they would need to work on. The classes are very inclusive, which is nice. I'm wondering if they ever do a art show for the public, which would draw people in that wouldn't necessarily want to do the art, but maybe would want to see and would help involve the community a little bit more. I'm wondering if kids can ride the bus to the art place after school. That would help some with transportation, would help, you know, serve the other populations. The grant or the rent the rent in the budget was a little bit confusing for me. I wasn't sure. It said listed as income of 600 and then as in kind as 3,000. So I wasn't sure about that, but I thought this was a really much needed organization and project.
Thank you, Catherine. I'll invite the second reader, Ian, to add new or opposing comments.
Catherine, you had a lot of great points. Thank you. I also thought this proposal was very good at finding a need and delineating how it's going to respond to that. And I would just suggest further reiterating how these various types of artists will benefit, and artists at different stages in their career, life, schooling, and kind of tailoring a response to maybe each of those different categories or something like that, just to give us an even more robust picture of who's involved in this. And then thinking about how the community is going to be tied in. Catherine mentioned a lot of great points there. And I would just want to reiterate what Catherine said regarding that. And I think, I think my last point is with regards to access and just how folks who don't use internet-based means of communication and finding out about things are going to know about these various opportunities. Just making sure that a statement regarding that is clear as well.
Thank you, Ian. Now we'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I have one. It stated that the only way people could sign up for this was Facebook, and I think that's very limited. I think you need to have other ways to sign up because, like Ian said, not everybody has social media or internet access. So I think there needs to be just another way to get that application or the sign up or something out to the community better.
It looks like the discussion is finished. I'll ask panelists, not finalists. I'll ask panelists to finalize your scores and update your online comments and give me a thumbs up. Our next application is from Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana in Columbus. Our first reader is Michael Beck.
Okay, so I like Comic-Con, so this was an interesting one to read. Some good points is I like that it was free. I like that they used the past surveys to help structure the events. Some things I was a little concerned about is they had 0 for small children. I would think that if they broaden their outreach besides just the campuses, I think that this is something that families would love to come to. I was really shocked that they didn't have any social media, no YouTube, no Facebook, that type of stuff. They were only using the Ivy Tech website, and why that's great. Again, you know, we have a lot of other people in rural areas that are not going to know about that. I didn't really see any outreach to maybe public schools or, you know, even seniors, you know, assisted living, giving them something to do. It is a great event for the community. Let's see, I really thought that there was only like 3 people that had any involvement in doing this. So it would have been nice to see, is that just what they put, or is there actually more people behind the scenes? And if not, getting more community involvement, getting maybe a high school group to come in and help you as a peer relation. You know, I mentioned, you know, going into schools, getting with tourism. I could see tourism helping promote this. They really didn't have a marketing or an idea plan. I think strategy wise, like if you have a hearing impaired person, they did say that it was handicap accessible, but that was really the only thing that they put on there. So, and they didn't have anything about how they were trying to reach out to underserved communities or groups. Let's see, just more involvement. I think it is a great event. It's something different that you don't see except for in Indianapolis. And so I think that's all I have on this for right now.
Thanks, Mike. I'll invite our second reader, Philip, to add any new or opposing comments.
Yeah, a lot of the same things that Michael said were things that I had noticed. I really thought it was cool that there were the 2 artists who are from Columbus who've been featured every year, and they continue to come back. And then I was impressed by the emphasis that they put on artists profiting from this. You have a booth space that's free, as Michael mentioned, and where, you know, they can sell their art. I know Michael said this, but it says in the application that they've strived to include diverse artists and art, which is wonderful. But I just would like to hear more about how that specifically has been done. They said a couple times in the application that there have been requests for it to be at least a 2-day event, and they seem like they're resisting it. And maybe that gets back to what Michael said. You know, it's just the one person put it on with like 2, you know, kind of support staff maybe. I am just going to echo what Michael said. Build those connections. Make this more of a collaborative event. I think you would have a bigger. Well, I don't want to tell somebody how to do an event or in their own community, but it seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm for this. I think this would be a way to really grow awareness. You know, increased access to the arts, and you know, from a tourism perspective, and Michael is tourism director also. So yeah, bring more people into your community, and especially if it's a 2-day event, you're going to have some hotel rooms that get booked as a result of it. Yeah, well, and then I had a question about the budget where it says 0 in kind. I thought that can't possibly be true. You know, even if it's just the university providing the space, It seems like there should have been something in kind calculated there, but that's all I've got.
Thanks, Philip. Now I'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I would just add that for the application, since I'm old, it would be a really good idea to maybe explain exactly what Comic-Con is in the application and why it benefits the community and students, you know, how people interact with it. I know somewhat, but, you know, a good explanation of it would be nice. That's all.
So seeing that the discussion is finished, I'll ask all panelists to finalize your scores, update your online comments, and give me a thumbs up. Okay. The next application is Jackson County Community Theater, and our first reader is Ian.
Thank you. Okay. I thought the project proposal as a whole really connected to did a great job of connecting to the various questions asked throughout this grant, and they emphasized their adaptability, which I thought was a plus. It would benefit from a statement directly stating how this proposed project benefits Indiana artists, and providing maybe even some contextual ways of framing that. I did like the inclusion of the project and organization's uniqueness in its location and the various methods that are used to solicit feedback. I think that was a great positive. It was unclear to me, and this just could be me. There was a statement that volunteers are required to become members of the theater, and I think clearly delineating if people are paying to volunteer or not. I don't think that's what this proposal meant, but just making sure that that's very clear with regards to access. So people who are becoming involved, do they need to join something to do it? And if so, how and what's required of them to do that? I think would really just bolster having a clear statement around that. And again, this could just have been my misreading. And on the volunteer note, I think specific examples of how recruitment is happening. It seems like there is a robust community. So just really highlighting that and the various ways that that organically and programmatically happens, I think would really help as well. And just who manages these volunteers, I think would really help. Otherwise, the management section was also very concise and strong as well.
I'm gonna go ahead and start talking because Trisha, I think you said I'm the second reader. So, all right. So, as far as this application goes, one thing that stuck out to me was how they're pushing themselves to perform one program offsite to help increase their exposure and accessibility to a larger audience. I really like this idea. I think it's a prime opportunity to push some of these idea strategies as well in terms of how they're selecting a location that will facilitate serving that underserved population and just intentionally making art more accessible to everybody. They definitely have a clear path for feedback, which is great. And it seems like they're responding to it too, which is even better. But I don't know if I misread this or not, but it appeared most of the feedback was from members directly. And while that's, kind of understood, those will probably be the people who are most vocal. If they're not already, it'd be really good to provide a path for feedback from those who are not members. Application talks about how they are responding to the community feedback as well. They're engaging more youth, which is great. That'll pay back later down the road as well as they become engaged with the arts long term. It does sound like they're doing advertising both print and digital, which is good. I think, I would encourage them with the print. It wasn't clear where their print advertising is appearing, if it was just on the front of the theater or if they have a way for, reaching out to different areas within the community, whether it be a grocery store or a school. How can they use that to kind of intentionally target different populations to engage with the theater as well? And last thing that stuck out was they have addressed physical accommodations and sensory accommodations as well, which I was really excited to see for a smaller town being one step ahead where they've already addressed those items. I think that's great that this theater has already done that. That shows a lot of perspective.
Thanks, Jeremy. And now we will open it up to the panel for any additional or new comments. Anne, were you about to say something?
No, thank you. No. Okay.
So it looks like discussion is finished, and so I'll ask all panelists to please finalize your scores, update your online comments, and give me a thumbs up. Thanks, everyone.
Before
Go ahead.
we move on to the next one, I was just going to ask, since we've been here an hour and a little bit, does anyone need a break? Do you just want to power through the last 4 applications?
I'm good.
Okay.
Good.
Thanks, Chris. So our next application is Jennings County Historical Society doing business as Our Heritage Incorporated. And our first reader is Anne.
Thank you. This is the Sassafras Tea Festival and Civil War Living History, Historical Museum, Blacksmith Shop, and Ghost Walk. The proposal is well written, but they have clear goals and strategies to help ensure continued success and impact on area residents and artists. Congratulations on 59 years. The number of volunteers and community partners is impressive, and that supports the value of the project, holds for the community. The specific examples of collaboration provided, they confirm that I feel like they're really open to input and strive to continuously improve. They even mentioned they took some the Arts Council past grant suggestions from panelists about reaching out to the schools, which they're doing. They really have a great attitude about continuing to improve. I think the proposal details a high quality experienced team for the management, and they look very likely to continue to be successful. I do appreciate the detailed timeline and the budget. I would think that it appears that the longevity of the festival is evident in such a concrete plan. All in all, I thought it was a terrific proposal, and it appears to be a well-loved event in the community.
Thank you, Anne. I'll invite the second reader, Catherine, to add new or opposing comments.
I just follow 100% what Ann had to say. It's great.
So we will open it up to discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I just want to add that the the various name dropping was really successful, and I think they should continue to do that. They have 59 years of names and organizations to connect to. Might as well support what you have. So I encourage them to continue to do that. And then specific strategies and delineating specific strategies for groups that may not, and continuing to hold the space for change in an organization that's been going on for a long time, and addressing how this group may be doing that with specific statements, I think could be really great additions to an already great proposal.
Thanks, Ian. So it looks like our discussion is finished. I'll ask panelists to please finalize your scores, update your online comments, and give me a thumbs up. Okay. Our next application is Ohio County Tourism Incorporated, and our first reader is Jeremy.
So this project would be the first year that this project would be implemented. The application provided some precedent projects as well from other installations, kind of really helping to communicate the idea or the intent of what would occur through this event. General comments, the first Fridays are always really beneficial to the entire artistic community abroad. So I think, or abroad in general. So there's definitely a lot of potential here with this program in terms of reaching a wide-ranging audience. And I think I would, one thing that was unclear to me was the budget and the artist benefit sections. The application notes that 20 artists will financially benefit directly, and then another 15 indirectly. But from reviewing the budget, I didn't see any artists listed in there as being benefiting directly. So that was unclear to me. It'd be good to get some clarification around that. In terms of community engagement, it seems like this has maybe been in the works for a while through a couple different boards or agencies. So it's good to see all that kind of pre-planning kind of come to realization. What it would be good to see more of is direct community engagement, though, to help tailor some of these to who they're serving. And I think, honestly, some of that will probably come next year after the first event. The first event will provide a forum for providing feedback and getting more of that community engagement as they move forward. The project management team has 2 members listed on there. Both of them seem like they have very applicable experience to help coordinate and implement the event. And I guess the last thing that I noticed here was these artist booths. There's a fee for the artist to retain these for duration while they're exhibiting their work. But one thing I really liked is they provided a path for the artist to not pay anything if they want to volunteer some hours. If they're just strapped for cash, then they can volunteer as a way of kind of acquiring that booth for a short term as well. So I think that was good that they were providing multiple options there to the artistic community.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'll invite the second reader, Michael, to add new or opposing comments.
Good job for Jeremy to introduce that. The only thing my biggest comment is how much were they charging the artist, and can the artist actually make a profit? But I did like, in lieu of payment, they were allowed to do volunteer work and that type of stuff. It didn't really talk about, it mostly talked about the buildings and not really out. I guess I would like to know how they're going to decide what artists are going in there. I know they said it would be on a rotative basis, but it would come down to a board decision. And I guess I would have liked to have seen what are your criteria going to be. So that way there's no judgment, you know, and I'm not saying that there's going to be, but they just need to make sure that they have things in place that, oh, well, I don't think that's an art thing, but it truly is to other people in their eyes. So I would have liked to have seen, you know, this is going to be our criteria that we're going to look at. This is what we're charging them, that type of stuff, just to make it a better application. But I do think it's a great idea. It's a great way. So artists don't have to have a brick and mortar location where they're paying all the utilities and rent and that type of stuff to see if they can get off the ground. So those were my only other comments that I had besides what Jeremy said.
Thank you, Michael. Now we'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
I would also like to see more information about the use of the buildings. Will that just be on the weekends, whenever the artist wants to open up, just during the warm weather, during events? And if artists would be required to sign a lease, and for how long?
Also, there appears to possibly be an assumption that craftspeople and artists are underserved. If that is the belief of this proposal, clearly stating that as a simple sentence would be a really great addition as well. Just to know where you're coming from with that, I think would be really helpful too.
So seeing that the discussion is finished, I will ask all panelists to please finalize your scores, update your online comments, and give me a thumbs up. And I just want to double check with you, Michael. Did you give me a thumbs up? Thank you. Okay, our next application is the Ripley County Tourism Bureau, and we have a conflict of interest here with Catherine Tall, and so I think Cody will take her out and put her in the, wow, that was fast, Cody. Just like that. Our first reader is Philip.
Sorry about that. This is a plein air art exhibit contest. It's a judged event. It's being held at the Versailles State Park, which I think is a really great use of a public space. Again, as tourism, I like taking advantage of those natural resources that our communities have here in Southeast Indiana. There was something that I wanted. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is today, I feel like, is how a lot of these projects applications have used online and Facebook and social media. I thought that this one, they made a point of how they will target farmers market and libraries, which I think will hit a kind of a more diverse group. That said, you get into the idea and community engagement section, and like a lot of them, there's just, for me, not quite enough of an effort. I guess a deliberate, like, in writing effort to target minority individuals, artists, or attendees within the community. So I feel like I don't know. I kind of feel like a broken record as I was going through these. I just wish there was more, and maybe it's just the case that it's not being put down in writing. it's such an important aspect of this grant application. I feel like if applicants could kind of look at that and assess that, hopefully, going forward next year, that'll be something that they all do better, a better job of addressing. I was kind of blown away by the in-kind contributions. I thought that demonstrated just, again, excellent community partnerships, community buy-in for this project. Yep, I think it'll be a great event. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Philip. And I'll invite our second reader, Ian, to add new or opposing comments.
Thank you, Philip. You've said a lot of what I was going to say. So let's see if I can regroup here. I thought this was a very well-researched and well-articulated proposal. And the feedback from past classes was something they really leaned in on, which was a great idea, seems well-managed, and situated to receive feedback for the future. And I would propose maybe elaborating on how this project intends to support someone who may not consider themselves an artist, and how they are negotiated or welcomed into this space and this project, or how they participate. And so something clearer than what I just said with related to non-art people might be a really useful thing to highlight, as this project seems to really address visibility of artists and communities. And again, echoing Philip, just a remembrance that representation matters, particularly in a very visible project in plein air. So who is included and who is not is very transparent. And so leaning into that and working that into any sort of planning and community buy-in feedback could only strengthen what this project is already doing. And so any sort of concise statements about those initiatives, I think, would be really useful too.
Thank you, Ian. I'll open the discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
One thing in the application that I was really excited to see was, oftentimes we're asked how many artists benefit directly and how many benefit indirectly. And this one had a really cool kind of success story in here from a previous event where someone, they'd garnered enough attention, they were able to open up their own sort of art studio. So I don't know, just seeing that in there was really interesting, because that kind of indirect benefit is always hard to define, I think. So it's great to see such a good success story there.
Okay, so it looks like our discussion is completed. I'll ask all panelists to finalize your scores and update your online comments and give me a thumbs up. So it looks like we can bring Catherine back in for our final application. There she is. All right. Welcome back, Catherine. The final application is the VV Main Street Incorporated, and our first reader is Anne.
Thank you. This is another long-term project. It is 16 years. This will be its 16th year. I felt the proposal was well written with clear goals and strategies to help continue to ensure continued success, as well as continue its impact on area artists and residents. I felt that the application demonstrated a clear understanding of the community that the organization serves. Specific examples discussed confirm that you're open to input and strive to continuously improve. Also, they've considered and are acting upon idea themes. I appreciate the details such as promotional flyers that have been updated with an ADA logo to make sure people know that the Main Street is accessible. They have the community entities that they work with. They listed specifics. That was nice. And they also provided some demographic information was included in the application. While the posters and the video provided in the previous section were helpful, there was only one web link that was provided and it didn't work. I tried it a couple different days and it wouldn't go anywhere. And web pages and social media, they really do give people like me, readers who are not familiar with the program, additional insight, and they're quite valuable to reviewers. So maybe you could have more than one link would be helpful in the future, or at least make sure you test it a couple times, or have someone else test it in case sometimes it's yours and you can get in, but nobody else can. So sometimes it's good to have a second reader or someone else test it. Let's see. Oh, I thought the proposal detailed a high quality and experienced team for the management. Now the description though did give me caused me some confusion. It was unclear like who was in charge of what. I didn't quite get so how do the promotion and the design committees work within the board of directors, or is it a board of trustees? I wasn't quite sure how that set up. Obviously, you know what you're doing, but because you've been doing it for such a long time, but sometimes it would help to have it more, you had roles, but I still couldn't figure out how those subcommittees worked within the overall committee kind of thing. Anyway, that was a spot that maybe could use some improvement next time. And I think the likelihood of continued long-term success is evidenced in your collaborative practices in working with so many local groups. I think the budget's reasonable. So a good grant. Looks like a great program coming up. That's it.
Thank you, Anne. I'll invite the second reader, Jeremy, to add new or opposing comments.
I'll really just probably echo a lot of what Anne said as well. I'll try not to, I guess I should say. The application talks about serving senior citizens, which is a great goal, but it doesn't really outline how they'll do that. It's not clear, are they helping to arrange or subsidize for a bus transportation from a senior housing center, or is the location the events being hosted at directly across from one, so it's easy to get to? So, having more specifics and a clear plan on how they're serving the population that they've identified as targeting would be really helpful. One point they mentioned was this is a large event in a post-COVID society. Well, not really post-COVID yet, but they're talking about bringing back people together in a cultural setting, non-threatening, but also entertaining. So I'd be curious to hear more about that. Like what sort of actions are they taking to make those larger gatherings sort of non-threatening? And the only reason I'm asking is because they've specifically made a point of mentioning it. They do have a clear path for feedback on the events, and it seemed like it's mostly focused on in-person surveys during the event. I think trying not to draw from too much personal experience, but I know if someone walks up to me on the street and says, "Can I ask you 5 questions?" Just probably say not right now or no thanks. So I think, providing multiple ways to get that feedback would be really beneficial. So that could be through written, like a survey box, or online through your website, things like that. So just kind of diversify the potential paths for getting that feedback. They did make note that they are responding to the feedback. And I think it's one thing to just kind of make note and say we're responding to the feedback, but actually gave examples of it, which is really tangible. So, one of those was they're hearing that they are being requested to bring back the horse-drawn carriages. And while they admit they haven't succeeded in doing it yet, but they're working on it. So it's really helpful to see those specific examples. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Now we'll open discussion to the panel for any additional or new comments.
You're muted, Catherine.
I didn't do that. The only thing I would say is for the application, maybe next time have photographs of the events and some of the Friday after or Friday evening events, and show people there and mingling and things.
It looks like there's no further discussion. I'll ask panelists to please finalize your scores, update your online comments, and give me a thumbs up. Thank you all. This concludes the fiscal year 2022 Region 9 Arts Project Support Regional Initiative Grant Panel. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if everybody can